Hi and Assalamualaikum. Today we are going to learn the first chapter in Biology Semester 1, which is Molecules of Life. With me, Madam Nur Sulaika Adam Musa. Molecules of life can be divided into 5 subtopics. The first one is water, the second one is carbohydrates, the third one is lipids, the fourth one is protein, and the last one is nucleic acid. The learning outcome for water is state the structure and properties of water molecules. Now let's take a look at water. The structure of water molecules. It is made up of 1 oxygen atom and 2 hydrogen atom. It has a band shape with bond angle of 4.5 degree between the 2 hydrogen atom. Water molecules is also known as a polar molecules because the hydrogen and oxygen atom has unequal distribution numbers of electrons. There are 6 properties of water. The first one is water acts as an universal solvent. It has low viscosity, high specific heat capacity, high latent heat of vaporization, high surface tension, and maximum density at 4 degrees Celsius. The learning outcomes for carbohydrate is state the classes of carbohydrates such as monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. We are going to look at carbohydrates. It is the main substrate in cellular respiration, for example, glucose. It also acts as an energy source and food storage in animals and plants. It builds blocks in cellular components, for example, cell wall and cell membrane. There are 3 classes of carbohydrates. The first class is known as monosaccharides. It is the simplest sugar. All are reducing sugar. It also can be classified based on number of carbon atoms and location of carbonyl atoms. The main monosaccharide is glucose. There are 2 forms of glucose that called as isomers, which is alpha glucose and beta glucose. The diagram shows the examples of monosaccharides, which are glucose, fructose, and galactose. The second diagram shows the difference between alpha glucose and beta glucose structure, which the position of hydroxyl group is different at carbon number 1. The second classes of carbohydrates is disaccharides. It consists of 2 monosaccharides, for example, maltose, sucrose, and lactose. All disaccharides are known as reducing sugar except for sucrose. This is a diagram of disaccharide. For example, sucrose is made up from glucose plus fructose. The last group of classes of carbohydrate is polysaccharides. It consists of many monosaccharides linked together by glycosidic linkage through the process of condensation. It's always large molecules. They are all insoluble in water except for glycogen. All easily hydrolyzed except for cellulose, for example, starch, glycogen, and cellulose. The learning outcomes for lipids. The first one is state the type of lipids, which are triglyceride, phospholipids, and steroid. The second one is describe the structure of fatty acids and glycerols. Lipids. It is built up of the elements carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. It is a large biological molecules that does not include true polymers but not enough to be considered as macromolecules. It cannot be considered as polymers because it does not build up by any repeating monomers. It is insoluble in water but soluble in organic solvents. There are 3 types of lipids. The first one is phospholipids. Phospholipids is a major component of all cell membrane. It consists of hydrophilic head and hydrophobic tails. The second one is steroids. The example of steroid hormones are cortisol and estradiol. The third one is glycerides, which made up of fat and oil. Triglyceride consists of 3 fatty acids molecules which link to 1 glycerol by E3 ester linkage. Ester linkage is shown here. There are 2 types of triglycerides, which is saturated fats made up of saturated fatty acid and unsaturated fats, which made up from unsaturated fatty acids. What is fatty acids? Fatty acid is a long, unbranched chain of hydrocarbon with carbonyl group at the end of each chain. Carboxyl group gives the molecule acidic properties. It is also amphiphilic compound because it consists of basic and acidic components. The hydrophobic tail is because of long hydrocarbon chain with many non-polar CH bonds, while hydrophilic head is because of its carboxyl group. What is glycerol? Glycerol is an alcohol with 3 carbon atoms and 3 hydroxyl groups. It can form ester bond with carboxyl groups of fatty acid. Next, the learning outcomes for proteins. The first one is describe the basic structure of amino acids, and the second one is state how amino acids are grouped. Protein contains elements carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen, and sometimes sulfur and phosphorus. The monomer of protein is amino acids. Amino acid consists of 4 different partners attached to a central alpha carbon, which is amine group, variable group, carboxyl group, and hydrogen. Amino acids are amphoteric, which have both acidic and basic. There are 20 common amino acids, all same basic structure but different side chain, which is R group. Amino acids are grouped according to their properties of their side chain. The 4 different groups of amino acids are non-polar group, which there are presence of hydrophobic side chain. The second one is polar group, with the presence of hydrophilic side chain. The third one is basic, because of amino group in their side chain, and the last one is acidic, because the presence of carboxyl group in their side chain. The learning outcomes for nucleic acids are state the structure of nucleotides as basic composition of nucleic acid, which are deoxyribonucleic acid DNA and ribonucleic acid RNA. The second one is state the types of RNA. Nucleic acid is a macromolecules known as polynucleotides. The monomers is nucleotides, while nucleoside is a portion of nucleotide without any phosphate group. The diagram shows the structure of nucleotide, which consists of nitrogenous base, pentyl sugar, and phosphate group. Phosphate group linked to carbon 5 of pentyl sugar by phosphoester bond. Phosphate group is linked between carbon 5 of pentyl sugar and carbon 3 of another pentyl sugar by phosphodiester bond. This is the difference in structure between DNA and RNA. The first difference that we can see is based on their pentyl sugar. The pentyl sugar for DNA is deoxyribose, while RNA use ribose sugar as its pentyl sugar. The second difference is nitrogenous bases for both DNA and RNA. DNA has thymine, cytosine, guanine, and adenine as their nitrogenous bases, while RNA has cytosine, guanine, adenine, and uracil for their nitrogenous base. There are 3 types of RNA. The first one is messenger RNA, or known as mRNA. It carries the genetic information transcribed from DNA in the nucleus to the ribosomes in the cytoplasm. The second one is ribosomal RNA. It involved in the protein synthesis. And the last one is transfer RNA. It has an anticodon, a complementary binding sequence for the correct mRNA codon.